Hi there, Nandini here with another video for Craft Angles. I'm stepping away from making cards today and creating some bookmarks instead. I love to read and always have a bunch of them lying around. Today I will be using the vibrant liquid watercolors to create 3 bookmarks. So let's get started. I have 3 rectangular panels of watercolor paper here measuring around 2 by 6 inches. I will be using the liquid watercolors by Craft Angles to create backgrounds for my bookmarks. I also have the beautiful bloom stamp set. I love the uplifting sentiments in this set. Finally, I have the barcode stencil. I will start by spraying my watercolor panel with clean water. The colors I am using for this background are Poolside, Pretty Peony and Lemon Tart. Basically the 3 primary colors. I am putting a tiny amount of each color on my craft mat. These liquid watercolors are very concentrated and a little bit goes a long way. I am starting with Lemon Tart and dabbing it randomly over the paper. Next is Pretty Peony and finally Poolside. Liquid watercolors are very reactive to water and I am using this property to create a colorful background. I am spraying the panel generously with water and then tipping it a bit to mix the colors and cover any white areas. You can always bring in a brush and do this as well. Remember not to overdo this because if the colors mix too much, we will just get a muddy background. I like to use tissue paper to dab off the excess water. You can also use a clean dry cloth. The next step is to dry the panel thoroughly. You can either use a heat gun or, like me, allow the panel to air dry naturally. Now that the panel is completely dry, I am adding some black splatters using the Blackberry liquid watercolor and a small brush. Since I want to stamp on this panel, I will leave it to dry while I work on the other backgrounds. For the next background, I'll combine the liquid watercolors with a barcode stencil. I will start by attaching the stencil to my panel with washi tape. This will ensure that my stencil doesn't move while working. I will start by putting a tiny dab of Poolside liquid watercolor on my craft mat. I'm using a small flat brush to apply the color to the paper through the stencil. And the idea is to create random strips with different colors across the paper. The other colors I use are Poison Ivy and Mystical Waters. Since I want a bold background, I am applying the color directly. If you want a lighter background, you can always dilute the inks with water. I also keep a tissue handy to wipe away the excess color from the stencil. One thing you can do is to press the stencil without cleaning over another piece of watercolor once you're done. This gives a second background. You can check out the Craft Angles YouTube channel for the video I made last month showing this trick. I will leave this piece to air dry while I work on our last background. The drying doesn't take any time at all as liquid watercolors dry quickly, making them very easy to work with. I decided to create a fun mosaic pattern on paper for my last background. To start, I am placing the sentiment I want to use on the paper. I am using the largest stencil from the Circle Mask stencil set and a pencil to lightly draw an arc around the sentiment. The idea is to get bands of color going from light to dark across the paper. I will start with Lemon Tart and use a damp brush to color the entire panel. The yellow feels a little too light, so I will add another layer of color. To get an orange shade, I am mixing a bit of peony pink with Lemon Tart. Liquid watercolors mix very easily, making it simple to create more shades from just a few basic colors. Next is the band of Pretty Peony, followed by a band of Soulmate, which is a dark red. The final band needs to be very dark, so I will add a touch of blackberry to the red color. Just be careful to add the tiniest bit of color as it can get dark very easily. I keep using my heat gun to dry the paper between each band. This is important as otherwise the colors will mix. After the panel was dry, I used a black pen to trace the pencil lines on the panel and do rectangles. Now, I am using the pen to thicken the lines and curve the corners. Traditional mosaic is created using chips of colored tiles. These small chips are laid out in a pattern and then covered with grout. The uneven black lines mimic the grout and create an eye-catching background. The whole process may look time-consuming, but it goes very fast as it is quite random and doesn't need to be perfect. You can also use any pen, sketch pen or paint to do this. The grout lines need not be restricted to black. You can experiment with different colors, even white, to get different effects. I'm adding some freehand diagonal lines on my second background. I've already stamped the sentiment from the beautiful bloom stamp set with black ink. Here are the 3 bookmarks I created. I rounded the corners and glued each panel on a slightly larger piece of cardstock. This creates a lovely frame around the bookmark and also makes it sturdier. I love creating bookmarks as gifts for my friends and family who love to read. Since they are small, they can be made from scraps of paper. The techniques I've shown today can easily be used for making tags or even full-sized cards. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join us again for some more fun techniques. Please do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified of new content. Take care and keep crafting. Bye.